What does it take to create a vibrant, thriving life? First, the sad news is that Thoreau was right. Most people are leading quiet lives of desperation, lacking in meaning, fulfillment, and vitality. But we choose more. We choose to create extraordinary lives. And the Art of Vibrant Living show entertains you with inspiration, empowerment, and education to create your life into a masterpiece. It's time. Let's vibe up.
Okay. Welcome, y'all. I am Daniel Aaron. I'm your host. This is the Art of Vibrant Living show, and we got an exciting show. I'm going to be just straight out of the gates, blunt with you, talk about something today that when I don't know about you, but when I grew up, don't talk about that. It's not polite. What is it? It's not poop. It's money. It's money. That's what we're going to talk about. Money, because in your vibrant life, in the art of vibrant life, art of vibrant living, one thing I know for sure is we need to be moving toward mastery, not yet mastered, but moving toward mastery in all the parts of life that matter. And money matters. As Jim Rohn put it, money's not everything, but it ranks up there with oxygen. Is it true? All right, so let's get into it. Enough from me getting you excited. But by the way, please do be entertained. It's going to be fun. And take something from Carmen's brilliance today. There will be a lot of it. And apply it. Do something with it in your life. Put it into action in some way. So, does that sound good or awesome? Carmen Croonquist is a master of money mindset, maybe a master of alliteration as well, a transformational healer, and a guide for heart-led entrepreneurs ready to create wealth without the burnout. She's got over 30 years of experience blending energetic work, deep energetic work, with high performance strategy. And she's here to help you, to help us crack the code on aligned abundance and true freedom. And that is awesome. Carmen, thank you so much for being with us.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this conversation for ages now. Yeah, money. I don't know how it was for you when you were a kid. And I'm going to ask you something specifically about that because you overcame some things around money and mindset, I know. But for me, yeah, when I was a kid, it's not polite. We don't talk about that. And one of the guidelines, tips, secrets I learned about creating wealth is that, generally speaking, if you look at some of the differences in attitudes and habits between people that are struggling financially and those that are doing well, the ones that are struggling, it's not okay to talk about money. The ones that are doing well, that's a natural thing to talk about. Like mustard on bread, it's just one of the parts of life. So how did this become such an important part of your life and service in the world?
Boy, it was an evolution and kind of a dark night of the soul time of my life that led me to do this kind of work. I've been a coach and a counselor for a long time and had been working in both in higher education and in the corporate world. And until 2000, the end of 2015, I suddenly was without a job. So I had a couple different moving parts. I taught at a graduate school. I had my own coaching program at a graduate school in Minneapolis. And I also taught top leaders that I was coaching at PwC and Facebook. And suddenly, at the end of 2015, my job went away at the graduate school. And then the other program at Price Waterhouse was cut shortly thereafter. And I had this little private practice where I really didn't market at all. My students referred me clients. My PWC leaders referred me clients. And I did a lot of public speaking that generated clients. But all of a sudden, here I was suddenly without a job. And it was interesting because it was a pause in my life where I could think about, do I want to keep doing the same things that I'm always doing and serving people in the same way that I'm serving them? Or do I want to maybe expand my skills a little and learn and do something different? And I was really fascinated with neuroscience. And for the one and only time in my life, I suddenly qualified for some dislocated worker money. So I went out and got a coaching certification in neuroscience and brain based success coaching, but also in theta healing. And it changed my life. It changed my methodology. And suddenly, people were coming to me with issues with money because the theta healing work that I was doing allowed me to uncover where people had blocks and barriers in the subconscious level to success and to help me really get at the root cause. So it's very different than being in the counseling world, like I had been all those years, where you're forcing people to relive traumas. This was very different. And suddenly people were showing up asking me to remove money blocks. And I could find beliefs on 4 different levels, but sometimes people would have these subconscious blocks that prevented them from creating money, or else they'd have a wealth, ceiling that they could never get beyond. And I would find that they had maybe made a vow or an oath in a past lifetime for poverty.
Hmm.
There were all kinds of things that showed up. So I didn't really kind of plan on this, but I became very fascinated with it. And I uncovered a lot of my own money blocks
Hmm.
and became very interested in this being a part of helping people not only become successful, but to really expand their impact and their ability to live their purpose. Because I think it's part of our spiritual mission to create wealth. We're able to do more good in the world when we have wealth and abundance.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. I love that. If you can look at Wallace Wattles, who wrote The Science of Getting Rich and all kinds of other great stuff. And I remember one of the great things he said in there is, it's your duty. And I think he put it in the language of God wants you to be rich. Why? Because you're here to develop to be your fullest capability. And to do that, you need to have resources to be able to invest in yourself. And then I think of Derek Sivers wrote this incredible article, which turned into a book, and it was something like, I don't know, 23 rules if you want to make a big impact in the world. And one of the first ones was get rich, right? And because well, last thing I'll say on this before I turn it back to you with a question is there. I love this quotation. I think I've changed it around over the years. There's nothing sadder than a broke philanthropist, right?
Right.
And we know there are so many wonderful, amazing people with big hearts and great purpose and vision who want to do good in the world, and they're waiting tables and struggling. And there's nothing wrong with waiting tables. However, if somebody's got a vision and a heart to do something more, it's a shame for them not to be doing that. So I love what you said. I love what you're doing. And of the 42 questions that came to me already, you said you uncovered some money blocks of your own, right? And you grew up on a farm, right? So what shifted for you? What was your early imprinting, and what blocks did you uncover, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I can sum that up with one sentence. I only believed I was worthy of wealth if I worked hard enough or suffered long enough to deserve it. And that is the word, to deserve it. And I came up with a methodology called the Worth Code, based on all the work that I've been doing in this area, because my early imprinting was kind of I'm not enough. You only are worthy of wealth through struggle and hard work. Um, my mom said something to me when I was in second grade. She said, "Carmen, when you grow up, you better marry a really wealthy guy because you like really nice stuff." And this is when I was 7 years old, and I had this kind of ooh response to it, and had a sense of I always wanted to prove her wrong. And yet it left me with these patterns of working three jobs my entire adult life. So it was like I perpetuated an ancestral pattern of poverty consciousness because there was a lot of my money story that was really attached to it being a struggle and not being worthy. And that when you ask about, what did I uncover? It was just the whole notion that we can all create wealth through ease and flow. It doesn't have to be through struggle. And that we all are worthy. There's no one person that's more worthy than another. And I just became very fascinated. You talk about Wallace, Waddles, and Florence Shin Chevelle. There's so many that go way back. Catherine Ponder from the 1950s, writing the dynamic laws of prosperity. There's so much great material out there that combines both spirituality and mindset
Mm,
and alignment, but also with strategy.
mm,
So I just became really fascinated with it. Just realizing, that it didn't have to be a struggle.
mm,
And I think a lot of things too, people often stay small to fit in. Like I don't want to stand out. I want to fit in with my friends and my family. And if I get really wealthy, I might not align in the same way that I did in my family unit or my friends unit. There are just so many different things that have come up when I think about, what are the common fears and blocks that people have to wealth. Sometimes it relates to, I'm afraid that people are going to come at me with a handout and expect me to fund all their projects if I get wealthy. And I just always say, well, it's like having boundaries. No is a full stop sentence. You make a decision who you want to help and who you don't. And you have control over your wealth and well being. You don't have to fund everybody's project. Um, there's the fear of, gee, if I get more wealth and abundance, I'll just have to pay more taxes. I'll have to give it to the government. That's one of my husbands. So I always pick on him for that one. And I always have I don't have a whole lot of power over how my tax dollars are spent. To the extent of the political advocacy of calling my, you know, members of Congress, but I can look at the value I get from the things that my tax dollars fund, like clean air and clean water and good schools and being safe. Um, the military, the police, there are just so many things that tax dollars pay for that are of value to me. So I always kind of say, if that's a blocker barrier for you, you can flip switch that. There just are a number of them that people come up as fears, and I see those patterns. But for me, I always want to get at what's the root cause. Under the subconscious level, what is preventing you from the wealth and abundance that you desire? And we want to clear out what's getting in the way and then put in the new program. So part of it is releasing old programming, but I always want to help people understand even something that was limiting for you. There was a lesson and a gift there.
mm.
You learned something. Somehow it served you in some way. And I want to help people understand how it served you before you release it and before you replace it with something new.
Mm. Oh boy, goody, goody, goody. There was so much in what you said. I love that. And I can relate a lot. When I was a little boy, my mother said, Danny, she called me Danny, Danny, when you grow up, you better get a good job because you've got expensive taste. All right. And never mind the get a job part of that early programming. Happily, somehow I didn't even hear that part. But part of what I heard you say in what you got from your mother was that you got to work really hard, and it's through struggle, and you ended up working three jobs, And you went through actually beautifully, very quickly, a litany of reasons that people put limitations on their abundance, right? Whether it's got to work hard, or people are going to come for handouts, or you got to pay more taxes. And I'm always thinking, I hope I can pay more taxes. Right? One of my friends he reframed it for himself, because a lot of people don't like paying taxes because they don't necessarily agree with the taxes and what they're used for. But he said common good. He's labeled it his common good fund. This is money that goes to the common good. And I know the more I pay in taxes, that means the more abundance I have. So all the better. Now, and of course, we can be smart about it. But let's go step by step, because I want to hear. Well, actually, let me get back to this, because you said it early on. You developed the wealth. Well, what was it? The wealth code. It was when you were speaking about deserving. Do you remember what that was?
It's the worth code. And
Worth code, yes.
I can share what that is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
The worth code is my trademarked methodology.
Hmm.
And so it's an acronym, and the W is for waking up your why, because money is really attracted to purpose. So if you have a powerful reason to become wealthy, if you have a powerful purpose, money is attracted to you. So it's really helping people get in touch with their divine purpose and unlock their inner mission. The O in the worth code is really owning your value. And this is where we do a lot of releasing. And it could be imposter syndrome. It could be fears. It could be, whatever barriers that you have that need to be released or addressed, so that you can really unlock your unique brilliance and claim your value. The R is for rewiring your identity. So it's one thing to have those programs, right, on the subconscious level, but it's another thing to have your identity tapped into wealth, because your self-concept and your identity is everything. It's how you define yourself. It's how you describe yourself. It's how you align. And so it's really helping people to rewire their identity so that they're aligned with that of a wealthy business owner, or however you want to be, a wealthy philanthropist, as you described earlier. But helping people get in touch with how they up-level their identity. And then the T in the worth code is for turning your purpose into profit. And this is where I help people create a signature high-ticket program that they can screen and qualify, rather than pitching and pursuing people, that helps them really monetize their mission. And then the H in the worth code relates to harnessing your visibility. So kind of like what we're doing now, how do you get visible out there? How do people find you? So how do you be able to really activate your message and position yourself as an authority out there, as somebody people trust and want to work with?
I love it. I love it. And as I predicted earlier, indeed, you are a master of alliteration, waking up your why, turning your purpose into profit. I don't remember all of them, but they all had beautiful alliteration in them, beautiful words. So, what do you think is, when it comes to identity? All right, why do so many people get attached to identities that are not serving them when it comes to wealth? Right? I remember years ago seeing a blurb. I was part of a wealth summit or something like that, and the whoever was speaking was talking about so many people in the world dream of being rich, being wealthy, and yet very few of them do anything about that, really. And one of the things that I remember on that summit was, you said, well, you want to be wealthy? How many books do you have on creating wealth? How much have you educated yourself on being wealthy? And I realized for myself at that time, many years ago, I was like, wow, you know what? I've done a lot of work, but I haven't really educated myself that much on that. What keeps people from creating an identity that is wealthy?
Some of it's early programming. I'm going to use my dad as an example there.
Hmm,
As you mentioned, I grew up on a farm, yet there were wealthy people in the family. My dad had a
hmm,
cousin who was vice president of Exxon Oil.
hmm,
And he had an aunt that owned three banks and played the stock market. But my dad had this identity: we're just the dumb farmers.
ooh,
He would say that,
whoa.
and we're programmed, highly programmed from birth to age 7. So that's when we're often in a theta state. And as children, we take in all these messages without discernment. So hearing that as a child, oh, we're just the dumb farmers. We eat really well, but it was kind of this identity that he created around, you know, around his profession, but he denigrated it by
Hmm,
saying that. And so people latch on to identities where they don't necessarily see themselves as this successful business owner or this wealthy person out there. And you can change your identity. You can
yes,
align with the identity, and you can change your self-concept. You will get to your goals more quickly by changing your self-concept than by merely just saying, hey, I want to be a millionaire within the next 2 years.
I love it. Okay, cool. So
It's it's
let's.
it's really
Yeah,
important.
it's really important. It's essential. Yeah, and I get excited because for me, the core of my work for myself and with my clients is really about identity, about being, and when it's happened twice in our conversation so far, Carmen. Something you said hit me like, oh, like a sadness and a punch in the gut when you spoke about, how many people are killing themselves with hard work, and for you at that stage when you were burning out with 3 jobs, and then that line that your father said, "We're just dumb farmers." It's like, oh, the sadness of that, and the things that we do to hurt ourselves without knowing any better. Um, and I love what you said, that to the audience, that you have control over your identity, that you can change your identity. So how do you help people to do that?
Oh, so I do work on the theta brainwave state
Hmm,
because so much of our programming happens when we're children in that theta state, and it's already trapped in there. And then we often try to use our conscious mind to change things that are in the subconscious.
hmm,
And it doesn't always work really well because A, we can't always know what's on the subconscious. And B, we're trying to change an issue. We have to go back and get into that theta state and really get at the root of it. And as I mentioned earlier, understanding how did a limiting belief serve you
hmm,
um, before you release it. And with a theta brainwave, the process that I use is it's co-creation. I help people get in touch with what they want, but then I want to find out what's in the way of it. What's preventing you from getting it? And usually there's some level of fear of what might happen if I get my, you know, a big fear people have about wealth is, well, what if I get wealthy and I don't know how to manage it well?
hmm,
Besides worrying about people coming out for a handout, what if I lose it?
hmm,
That's one of the biggest fears too, is, gee, I never learned how to manage it or whatever. And, we always have the choice between a growth mindset and having a fixed mindset. And a growth mindset is like, hey, maybe I didn't grow up with wealth, but I can learn it. And so I help people understand that they can learn the identity of a wealthy person. And just like Napoleon Hill said, success loves company.
hmm,
So you want to be hanging out with high vibe people who are wealthy. And you need to understand, if you've never known what it felt like to be wealthy before, it's hard for you to tap into that feeling as you're manifesting, as you're changing your identity. And so there's a process whereby I can help people download the identity of a wealthy entrepreneur and what it's like to feel wealthy and safe. And I do a lot of energy testing to understand what programs people carry. And I'm going to use just one case study as an example. I've been working with a doctor, and she was an industrial psychologist who worked in the corporate world and wanted to start her own business in coaching. And she was used to having really consistent income in the corporate world. But suddenly in her own business, she was struggling. And she made this comment to me one day, and she said, "Carmen, why can't I make more than $1,000 a month for coaching?" And I'm like, And I decided to energy test her to see if her wealth blueprint was set at only $1,000 a month for coaching. Sure enough, it was. I'm like, what do you want it to be? So we cleared it out. She wanted it to be $15,000 a month. And so we looked at what might get in the way of that, and we cleared it out. And then downloaded her with the identity of a coach who makes $15,000 or more a month, and then downloaded her with the feeling of what it feels like to be a coach who earns at that level. And then energy tested again to make sure that download took, that everything changed. And within a month, she was making that much money. So it was one of those super exciting calls to get back where she just like, I just signed the biggest contract I've ever signed in my life. And she was so ecstatic. And it was one of those like, woohoo. So for me, then I got off the phone with her and I had to check myself because I have a 100K program. And I had to double check, do I have a wealth blueprint whereby I am, confident selling a 100K program? I had to do some up leveling to my own identity and some shifting there too. So I energy test right with my clients. I do all this co-creation work, but I'm always checking myself too, because sometimes something that comes up with a client is something that I need to take a look at as well.
100% makes sense. Go ahead, you're about to say something else?
Yeah, we all have a wealth blueprint. We all have a wealth blueprint. Our wealth blueprint is based on kind of our feeling in relationship to money, our identity and self-concept in relationship to money, our feeling of self-worth in relationship to money, the thoughts, the feelings, the kind of self-talk that we have in relationship to money. All of that comprises what we call a money mindset. What do we say more often than not about money? Are we saying we're just the dumb farmers, like my dad used to say? What are we saying? And it's trying to really understand, that complaining is creating. And a lot of times people talk about what they don't want. They focus on what they don't want. And what you focus on grows. And so it's really getting people to pay attention to your self-talk. What are you reinforcing and putting out there to the universe? And is it what you want or what you don't want? And getting back to that identity piece, somebody with a wealthy identity is not going out there complaining about, hey, my business is a money pit. They don't talk that way. They talk about themselves being financially astute and creating wealth and abundance and being able to receive and being worthy of the value that they provide to their clients, knowing how to price and package their services, knowing how to talk confidently about money. Those are things that are so important in retooling yourself to align with wealth.
Wow. Well, that was rich. Pun intended. Thank you for all of that. And so a couple pieces pop up for me, and then I got a question for you. I love what you said. Complaining is creating, right? And I remember connecting years ago with Edwene Gaines, and she wrote a book, something like The Four Spiritual Pillars of Prosperity or something like that. And she was the genesis of a international movement called the Complaint Free Challenge from my friend Will Bowen. And one of the things that she said I thought was just phenomenal. If we're complaining all the time, I don't like this and I don't like that and I don't want that and that's bad. And if you were some kind of divine creator and you heard somebody saying, I don't want, I don't want, I don't want, would you give them more? No, of course not, right? You would say, okay, well, I won't give you any more, you know? And so that's like, it's like saying, no, I don't want anything. So I love that piece. And, you know, and I know we're going to come along soon to a couple opportunities for um, people to get some direct help from you, and even some of that as a gift from you, which is awesome. You also said something important in that little segment there about as you were working with that client and shifting her mindset from $1,000 a month to $15,000 a month, you did a check on yourself, right? And there's a truism in coaching and therapy, which is we can't take anybody deeper than we've been ourselves, right? So what I heard from you is you said, oh, let me check on me and see about my identity. And as you describe the download, you know, I pictured Neo in the Matrix, right, getting plugged in and like, you know, a whole different way of being, an education in an instant, in a sense. And you're working with deep energetic work as well as strategy. So before we get to how people can work with you directly and get some benefit from you in that way, can you give a little bit more on how you did that for yourself, and what if somebody's just like wonderfully excited right now and says, I want to download, I'm going to change my identity, let's go. How did you do that? How do they do that?
What I did is, you know, first of all, learn how to energy test, because your higher
Hmm.
self is always going to direct you. It's like having your own GPS system, and we all have it. And we often question it. We don't always trust, but we can all energy test. It's just you want to be hydrated. So that's always the key. We want to make sure that you've had a lot of water. And when I'm teaching somebody how to energy test, and I always double check every time I'm working with them to make sure they're energy testing correctly.
Hmm.
But my secret is always to give them a pinch of Himalayan sea salt
Hmm.
and then down it with some water, because Himalayan sea salt will fool your body into thinking it's hydrated.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's always my foolproof methodology. And people can energy test with a pendulum.
Hmm.
People can energy test with the sway test where you're standing
Hmm.
and you go forward if it's a yes or a truism for you, and you're going to go back if it's a no or a false thing for you. You can energy test with your thumb and your ring finger, holding it strong. You can energy test with your arm being out. You know, if you're working with somebody else and if it's
Hmm.
strong,
Hmm.
if it's a yes or if it's a truth, it's strong. But if it's weak, you know, it's false, or if it's a no. So I always want to find out the way somebody energy tests most correctly. And I will teach them how to do this for themselves, because I want people to learn how to tap into their own inner wisdom.
Hmm.
So I will find out, first of all, just like what their programming is around money and where their wealth blueprint is set. And then find out if they want to change it. What do you
Hmm.
want instead? And, you know, in order to change that, you need to have different thoughts, different feelings, and a different identity.
Hmm.
You need to have a different self concept. And so I help people with that. With the theta state of mind, we go into a theta state together through a theta brain meditation. And that's where I do the download and do the shifting. Now, we all have free will. That's one law of the universe that can't be bent or broken. It cannot. And I have to live in total ethical alignment in the work that I do. I can't do something without somebody's permission.
Hmm.
I can't change your energy. I can't change your thoughts or your feelings or your programs without your permission. So I always want to get your permission. But again, I always want to tap into, what did you learn? You know, I'm going to give you another example of a client who was a top coach here in the Twin Cities area. So I live in the metro Minneapolis, St. Paul area. I'm in the wilds of Western Wisconsin, but this guy is a leadership coach, and he was just always able to only hit 6 grand or to 6 figures, but he wasn't able to really get beyond that. Or he would have issues too of losing money and wanted to do some work with me. And what we found out is, on one level of belief, he had taken an oath of poverty.
Hmm.
He had been a priest
Hmm.
earlier in his career. And because he was a person of his word, that oath was still there. So we talked about, like, what did you gain? How did that serve you, taking that oath and
Hmm.
vow of poverty? And he talked about just, he lived in Africa for a number of years and served people there, and, how it was a big part of his mission earlier on, but then he changed careers, he got married, couldn't be in the priesthood anymore, and, went on to help people in a different way as a coach. But in order to release that vow and to cut that tie, we had to talk about how it served him.
Hmm.
And then we shifted it for him and went back to energy test to make sure it was gone.
I love that.
And that changed everything for him.
Yeah, well, it's such a deep wisdom that you're pointing to on a couple levels here. One is, um, so many of us are hypnotized by the material world, and we think, I want something different in my life, so I just got to do these things differently. And there's nothing, and of course we do need action. We need to do things. However, if we're doing these things from the same mindset, and let me check with you if make sure that I'm understanding right, and so hopefully everybody in the audience is getting it too. When you talk about the muscle testing, right? That's a way of going beyond just the conscious mind to the subconscious layer, right? Because we can
Yes.
think, oh yeah, I want lots of
Mhm.
money, but underneath, oh no, I took a vow of poverty. I'm not going to take any money. That wouldn't be right. I would be, that would be cognitive dissonance. So am
Correct.
I on track with what the testing is about?
Yes, you're totally on track, because something, on the subconscious might be a barrier, and it's important to find out what that is.
Yeah.
And then, why is it there? Why was it created? Because even things that now have become a problem for you in terms of programs or beliefs, they were once a solution for you. This person, there was once value in the vow that he took. And we shifted it. He talked about what he learned and the value he gained from it, and he was ready to release it. He gave me permission to change it, and so I did. And I'm just the witness. I'm not the healer. I always want to be a little careful of that, because only God, source energy, your higher power is the healer.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm the witness. I structure that energy, and I witness to make sure it happens.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
we always talk about that observer effect, in science, and you hear that in neuroscience. The big thing is that observer effect. Nothing changes unless it's observed.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. And if we lean over to the moment to like the realm of therapy, one of my favorite teachers used to say that the most important element in the therapeutic relationship is the love that we bring. And so
Right.
witness is one part, but and I hear between the words also the caring, right? Yes, it's their free will and they have to make the choice ultimately. But I hear your caring, and I hear where that came from for you on some level is because you had similar struggles. You overcame this poverty and struggle and burnout. So it means a lot to you. Yeah.
It does. I think sometimes that when we major in our own problems, and then we're here to teach other people so they don't have the same struggles.
Yeah.
And I just think of almost every lesson and struggle that I've had has enabled me to help other people along the
Hmm.
way.
Yeah.
And it's left me with a passion. And that's not where I started out. Earlier in my career, I helped people figure out their career life purpose.
Hmm.
Now I'm still working that in because I'm helping people figure out how to create wealth while living their divine purpose and using their zone of genius
Hmm.
in a way that allows them ease and flow because they're aligned.
Hmm.
They're aligned with what they're meant to, why they showed up here. We're all here for an important, powerful reason. We all agreed to be here right now in these crazy times too. I like that word by the Chinese, that line that they used to say. It's an old Chinese line. May you live in interesting times. And I think we kind of chose that here. But everything that I've learned from a struggle or a hurdle that I've had to overcome, I've always wanted to take it to somebody else to help them, to make somebody else's journey easier, because it's not all about struggle. We don't have to be in this life just to be going from one hardship, one struggle to another. We're here to have a joyful journey. We're all just walking each other home in the end, right? you know?
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm with you. Okay, Carmen, time is flying along for us here. I love everything we're talking about. And I know that you have some opportunities for our audience, some that are time related, time sensitive, and also you've got a free gift. So let's talk about that for a moment. What will you say what the gift is you have for the audience?
Yeah, the gift is really your money story makeover. And we talked earlier about my money story, having a lot of programming early on from growing up
Hmm.
on a farm. Well, we all have a money story based on the messages that we receive from the adults in our life, children. But we also receive messages coming in from the DNA level, from grandparents, from ancestors. So this downloadable is to help you not only get in touch with your money story, but to make it over to what you want it to be. So it aligns really well with the other gift I have, which is my masterclass. And once a month I offer it. It's $1. I know that's not a freebie, but it's almost there. It's almost free.
Hmm.
I want people to have some skin in the game to register. But I offer it once a month. It's called Unlock Massive Wealth and Impact. And this masterclass is being offered tomorrow, which is the 15th of July. And it is from 6 o'clock to 7:30 Central Time. This time of year, I'm in the Central Time Zone. In the winter, I'm on Eastern Time Zone. But I offer this once a month. It's a 90-minute class,
Hmm.
and we really do some work to dig in on this. You get a chance to experience a little bit of the theta healing as a
Hmm.
group. You get a chance to experience the theta meditation, and you learn a little more about money mindset. And we work to create your money mantra,
Hmm.
which is as you're getting rid of the old program and putting in a new program, you have to imprint it
Hmm.
with repetition. And so coming up with a new money mantra is something that you want to put your attention toward. Just like we talked about, complaining is creating.
Hmm.
Or if you're going to create something new, you want to imprint the positive.
Hmm.
And that's what we do in my Unlock Wealth, a Massive Wealth Masterclass. And then I also have an Embody Your Worth event on the 29th and the 30th of this month as well. It's a 2-day event at the same time from 6 to 7:30 Central Time. That one is $27 and for a 2-day event. And I'm also looking for affiliates too. So if people want to be affiliates, I give you half of that $27. And just really invite you to attend. In that time, I have more time to do more deep work. And so I bring in the geotran and do other things to help you really up level your wealth blueprint.
Okay.
I'm all about helping people tap into their worthiness. That's why the worth code. You're worthy of the best that life has to offer. And that means you're worthy of being wealthy.
I love it. I remember hearing a line many years ago. The universe pays you exactly what you believe you are worthy of. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, interesting, scary, exciting, scary, exciting. And I love what you're pointing to is that it's up to us. We get to modify that and change it and create it how we want. So let me break it down a little bit for folks though, because you shared some beautiful opportunities, some of which are happening right away, like tomorrow, some of which are monthly, some of which come up later in this month. And so let's make it easier for folks. What's the and I've put on the screen some of the ways to find that, the URL, but what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Carmen?
You can reach out to me via my website to schedule a 15-minute coffee chat with me. You can, reach out to me on LinkedIn or Facebook as well. I'm on Instagram. I don't know that technology quite as well, but I'm learning. You can attend one of my master classes because I offer it once a month. I'm scheduled through September, but now I need to get my scheduling out through the rest of the year. Um, you can you can find me pretty easily online. My
Okay.
name of my business is called Intentionality because I'm all about having intention. Because I believe when you're clear about your intentions, you can live your truth and own your worth at the highest levels. So you can find me under Intentionality LLC.
Okay, I love it. All right. So for those of y'all who are listening and not watching, the sounds like the easiest, best way might be to reach out to Carmen via her website, intentionalityconsulting.com. And that is spelled like you would think, intentionalityconsulting.com. If you would like to get the kind free gift to rewrite your own money story, use that same website, intentionalityconsulting.com/your-money-story. Right? So that's your money story with some hyphens in there. Right? So perfect. Okay. And one thing I can tell about you, Carmen, already is that even if somebody listens to this a year from now and you're not offering that exact same masterclass, you're a woman on a mission to free people and help people, and so there will be more opportunities coming.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So I think I have one last question for you. Right?
All right.
It's a big question. It's so big that it's impossible to answer, and because it's impossible, that makes it so you can never mess it up, right? Walt Disney said, "I like to do 6 impossible things before breakfast," so I follow his example. And the reason I say all of that silliness is because you've got so much experience and success and track record. You've learned so much. You've overcome so much in your own journey. And now I'm asking you to distill, to hone all of that down so that if you had just one thing to share with our audience, one thing that would help them to live their most vibrant, thriving life, what would be that one thing?
I would say just to remind all your listeners and viewers that you are powerful creators and you came here to expand and grow and to create. So my question for you is, are you creating by design or are you creating by default? Because we're always creating. And that's where being very intentional about what you're creating helps you to create more by design because what you focus on grows.
Intentionality. I love it. You are a powerful creator. You are a powerful creator. I love that. So true, so important.
and in some ways so obvious, yet so often not grasped by many folks. So I'm 100% with you. That's beautiful. Carmen, thank you for not just the time you've invested, and I appreciate that, but thank you for your courage and your journey, and for caring enough to overcome the obstacles that you face to take, that we're just dumb farmers, and create yourself into a money mindset master. So thank you so much for who you are, what you do, what you're creating, and for being with us.
Thank you. It was an honor to be here. I enjoyed the conversation. It went so fast. And I wish you all the success with your Art of Vibrant Living show. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you, Carmen. I appreciate it. Yeah, time's flown by. So, on that note, y'all in the audience, thank you for being here. Thank you for not just being interested in living a vibrant, thriving life. You're doing something about it. You're getting some education. You're tapping into the vibe of a money mindset master like Carmen. Again, do something with it. Do something with it, right? Grab one of her freebies. Join her masterclass. Invest in yourself, because your freedom unlocks the freedom of the world. I love that you are here. Thank you for being here. I love you. See you again soon. Aloha.
Mahalo for tuning in to the Art of Vibrant Living show, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, and may you live with great vibrancy.